Hello, and thank you for joining my presentation. My name is Alex Benedict. This is my final project for Harvard EDX's Introduction into Cybersecurity. My GitHub account is Howell Wren. My Harvard EDX account is 13ENEDICT underscore, and today's date is January 8th, 2025. So today I'm going to talk about a really significant cybersecurity incident that happened recently involving a company called CLE0. What makes this attack particularly interesting is how it started as what seemed like a small security issue, but quickly turned into one of the biggest supply chain attacks we've seen lately. And the basis of these attacks was an initial command injection. So Clio makes this software that helps companies connect their business systems together, kind of like a digital bridge between different parts of a company's operations. And what happened was that hackers found a way to break into this bridge. And because so many companies were using Clio, the impact was substantial. So, a critical vulnerability in the Clio integration cloud and other Clio products was actively exploited by a group called Termite Ransomware Group. Now, what initially appeared as an isolated incident has evolved into, as I said, one of the most significant supply chain attacks of recent times. So, Termite Ransomware Group was not alone in their endeavor. The CIOP ransomware group has exploited a critical vulnerability and other products affecting over 60 organizations. So, the attack basically happened in three main stages. First off, someone discovered there was a weakness in Clio's software, specifically a way to get around their security checks. Then the termite group actively started using this weakness to attack different companies. Now, once the weakness was established, and here's where it really gets concerning, is when C1OP or CIOP got involved and announced that they've successfully attacked 60 organizations using the same vulnerability. So let's talk about the technical breakdown. And Huntress Cybersecurity Systems did an amazing write up on this case because it was slowly unfolding over the course of the month of December. So in December 2024, Huntress identified an emerging threat that involved three avenues of Clio's software: Lexicom, VL Transfer, and Harmony software. All of these files and products are used to manage file transfers. It was released in a statement that by Huntress that Clio published an update and advisory which allows unauthenticated remote execution. So Huntress Security Resources have recreated the proof of concept and learned that the patch does not mitigate the software flaw. So Clio knew about the issue, tried to patch the software flaw, and this was not enough for the attack vector this was not enough to dissuade the attack vector, right? Um, and the essentially they found a way to bypass the authentication system and almost think of it like finding a back door that lets you skip the security guard at the entrance. Once they got in, they used various tools to maintain their access, one of which being called auto run. Another of these tools to essentially hold the access is called Cobalt Strike, which is like setting up a hidden command center inside the network. So even if it was patched on the exterior, the command center still existed inside the software. And as an example of what was recreated by Huntress Cybersecurity, you'll see right here thread type as simple as auto run coded into the overall software allowed the attackers access uh, and essentially created a loop in the system so that the defense had to continue to be reset. And when it was reset, that gave the exploiters access. So the impact of the attack was massive, right? And we're talking about 60 different organizations. And because CLE0 software deals with business integrations, the attackers potentially got access to really, really sensitive data. What falls under that veil of sensitive data is things like internal company data, business partner information, and possibly even personal customer information. Because the systems are all connected. When one company got hit, it created a ripple effect that impacted their business partners too. So here's a breakdown of Huntress's finds within the software. Um, as we spoke on, the auto run files are immediately read, interpreted, and evaluated. One of the multiple files dropped into the file system. Yeah, the arbitrary file write vulnerability, allowing the software to be written on after it was established and secure. So files placed in the auto run folder are immediately deleted following their processing. Really, really interesting concept here. And so now we're going to go into the analysis of the vulnerability and the attack infrastructure. So the vulnerability was an authentication bypass in CLE0 products enabling unauthorized access. The exploitation leading to remote code execution capabilities, meaning off-site impact on on-site software. Widespread impact due to the fundamental nature of the vulnerability. This was not just one company. This was everyone who uses the CLE0 software, or over 60 businesses that utilize CLE0 software. The infrastructure was the deployment of the Cobalt Strike beacons for persistent access, making the in-house computer hub inside the software after injecting commands on the something like auto run feature or host feature. Using custom backdoors for maintaining access, implementation of reconnaissance tools for lateral movement. So if they can move from system to system, if instead of a patch, if they are identified inside the software. And preventative strategies. So first, if we're talking system hardening, they need stronger authentication. So not just passwords, but multiple layers of security checks. I believe the term that I found as a suggestion was something called the zero trust authentication, which means that on both sides of the system, authentication is required, even from the creator. So that's really valuable. Companies really need to think about their supply chain security, like regularly checking the security of any software they're using to connect with other businesses. So the biggest thing is having a solid backup plan in case something goes wrong, or the development of comprehensive software that measures supply chain risk management, zero trust architecture for integration platforms, and regular security assessments of all third-party integrations. So the lessons that we've learned from this process are the incident represents a significant evolution in the supply chain attacks, demonstrating how attackers are increasingly targeting integration platforms and shared infrastructure. The ability to compromise 60 organizations through one vulnerability highlights the critical nature and vulnerability of supply chains in modern environments. The involvement of multiple threat actors in exploiting the vulnerability shows a sophisticated nature of cybersecurity threats that are only going to continue to evolve. The collaboration or competition between threat groups represents a concerning trend in the cybersecurity landscape. Right? And then last but not least, long-term strategic improvements, which we've gone over, security architecture, supply chain security, and that would conclude our presentation. So if asked about if we're talking about the companies affected, the specific names have not been released to the public, but the full financial impact is still being assessed, and ransomware attacks typically result in significant costs from both the attack itself and the necessary security improvements afterwards. As well as the current status of the companies, seeing as we are now in July, the companies are actively working on implementing the security measures we discussed to prevent similar attacks in the future.